Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We're back from the Star Wars galaxy last week, so now it's time for us to make our first, but not our last, stop on the Atlantic Ocean as we play the last of the war games for the month, and indeed, this will also be the last game of the month. We're going to be, game number 5 on the Tac Up Wargaming list is about to take center stage as we play Atlantic Chase from GMT Games. In this game, we have several scenarios involving historical stories from World War II between the Home Fleet, Great Britain's Navy, and the Kriegsmarine, the German Navy, between 1939 and 1942. Who we actually control varies from scenario to scenario, but that's another story for another day. I didn't want to run through the tutorial scenarios on the channel, since there are other videos that feature those scenarios. I may work through those scenarios at some point, especially if this hits the channel again and again, and it very well might. I've actually been really enjoying learning this game. For now, though, let's go ahead and take a look at today's scenario. So today we're going to be going through the first blockade scenario. So the scenarios are divided into groups. We've got blockade scenarios, then we've got Norway scenarios, breakout scenarios, and finally 2 in the Arctic. We are going through, where is it? Here we are. The first blockade scenario. So let's look at the story for that. So the first batch of scenarios explores the operations from September 1939 to 1940. From September 1939 to March 1940. The war has just started and both navies scramble to test the enemy and gain advantage. The British seek to battle the Kriegsmarine in the North Sea, itching for a decisive battle, one that will render Germany's modern ships ineffective. It is also charged with disrupting Germany's merchant shipping to Norway and elsewhere. Conversely, the Kriegsmarine seeks to test the new blockade, hoping to slip lone raiders through the wide open Atlantic Ocean and beyond. I won't go through anything else there. We'll go ahead and take a look at our first scenario. Blockade 1, Raiders of the North Atlantic. September 1939. Grand Admiral Raider intends to interfere with British merchant traffic in the Atlantic. Before war was declared, ships were already sent beyond the North Sea to take up position, rendezvous markers, and now he has ordered raiders to slip through the developing blockade to harass Britain's supply lines. So our objective is to score hits on British convoys. Under no circumstances, however, am I to lose a German vessel. My ships may complete in Wilhelmshaven, Kiel, or Murmansk. See the Murmansk table on page 8. Rendezvous may change my objectives. So for setup, the weather starts good. I'm playing the Germans and I will start with the initiative. The map is the actual game board I've got all set up. British and French task forces start as indicated, and we've placed the rendezvous markers already. I'll point all of that out when we move over to the board. The scenario ends when there are 2 or fewer rendezvous markers remaining and the Germans have no task forces in play. It can also end as a result of the British action table. And then once during the scenario when I have the initiative, I can attach an intel marker to a British trajectory segment. I may do this at any time, but only once during the scenario. So the rendezvous markers, I'll point those out, they have no effect on play except when a German task force station is in hex with one of them. And I'll explain a little bit more about that when we go over to the board. When I have the initiative and a German marker is there, and a German task force is in a hex with a marker, I make a fueling check. So I roll a die and apply the result on the fueling table. So that will be over in this table, but I won't go through absolutely everything that goes into that. So let's go ahead and start working our way over to the board, and we'll start off by looking at the task forces we have in the scenario. We're looking at what's officially called the British Task Force display, just to kind of set everything straight in terms of the types of segments and stations that each task force will be using. But for the start of the scenario, we actually have 3 French ships that are porting in Brest, and we'll point them out when we get over to the board. I do not want to stay how I've got them set in my hand. We've got 2 battle cruisers and what looks like I forgot what the CL is. Will you stay put? Let me see if I can lay my hand out even a little flatter. I think that's as flat as it's going to get. So we've got the Strasbourg, the Dunkerque, and the Montcalm. I am probably butchering the pronunciation of this. I suspect Ruff will have a field day with my pronunciations here. So that task force is using the solid dark brown marker. And like I said, they're based in Brest. We'll point that out when we get over to the board. I'll explain a little bit more about what the tokens and some of the numbers and the letters and the reference letters actually are when they become relevant. So I'll put those back there. And then on two convoys using solid light brown and then light brown with one line, we've got two British convoys. I'll point those out when we move over to the board. But the French task force will actually be starting as a station, whereas the two convoys coming in will start off as trajectories. And like I said, I'll explain that when we move over to the board. So let's move over and see what the Germans have. We have all U-boats on this scenario for the Germans. So on the solid white task force, we've got the Lutzow as a submarine. And then on the white with one blue line in it, we've got the Witter, which is also a submarine. And then in reinforcements that are actually starting off in Kiel, we've got the Grafspee. I think that's everything for the German task forces. So let's move over to the board so we can point out everything that we've got set up. So here's everything we've got going on the board. I've got the victory point tracker over down here, the tally initiative when we have opportunities to seize the initiative, and that as that changes back and forth. In terms of our setup, again, weather starts off good over here. We've got the rendezvous markers placed as shown. That is the Lutzow, which actually starts adjacent to one of those rendezvous markers. We've got one of our convoys coming in from Halifax. They're trying to get to Clyde and Liverpool. We want to be able to attack those convoys. As I mentioned, the French task force is starting down here in Brest with another British convoy coming from Africa trying to get to Portsmouth. The Witter is over here and starting off in Wilhelmshaven, and the reinforcements are in Kiel, which is over here just on the edge of shot over here. So with that, I think everything's all set to go, so let's go ahead and jump into this game with the Germans' first turn. So the first thing I want to do here is I actually want to get the Lutzow set up to refuel right away to hit that rendezvous marker. So I think I'm going to turn their task force station, which is what this is, this little cylinder. We'll replace it with two trajectory segments to get them into this rendezvous marker. Then for the Witter, I think I'm going to set them up to try to attack one of these convoys. So I'm going to take their station off the board, and I'm going to set them up as a trajectory as well. I did forget to mention our leader that we get to start with. Oop. I'll set those down for a second, but we do start with Admiral Raider, who gives us a special ability. So when we pass. Normally when we pass, we'd get to have one of our trajectories or one of our task forces perform time lapse and reduce their trajectory length. But since we have Grand Admiral Raider, we get to actually time lapse multiple. We actually get to time lapse two of our task forces. So I think we'll have the Witter trajectory like so. I'll bring them around. My plan is to bring them around, preferably going around the around the air segment here so I don't get an intel marker. But my plan is my plan here is to have the Witter actually try to attack this convoy coming from Halifax. So I'm going to have them. Question is, where do I want to try to attack them? Do I want to try to attack them off the coast of Britain, or do I want to attack them a little bit further out in the Atlantic? I think I'll actually try to attack right here. Let's see, is there anything else I want to do right now? I don't think so. So on that note, I will pass, which means both of my task forces will get to perform time-lapse. I believe that's only which, I believe it's based on, is it based on their individual speed, or which ones were the slowest? So first all pass. Okay, no. So if the player declares a pass and they have raid or a pound in play, you get to perform both of their allowed all pass actions. Okay, so it starts here. So I only get to do that twice, which means so I get to do that twice with Raider. But I think for now I will have the Lutzow perform time lapse. So I'll remove their. So actually, that's where this. Actually, that's where this little letter M icon comes into play for the speed. So based on whatever the speed whatever speed a task force has, they get to remove trajectory segments based on that. So because the Lutzow is a medium speed vessel, there's a time lapse table on the board. So they get to remove up to 3 segments in good weather, except there's only 2, so they time lapse over into that rendezvous marker and become a station there. So the next time the Germans have the initiative, then I'll get to perform a refueling check. So I'll bring the dice tower in shot. I think we'll put it there. The British now have the initiative. So I'll get the dice out, because the first thing we have to do is actually check the weather. So we might end up changing that. Let's see what happens here. In good weather, the weather changes on a 6 only. 1 to 5, it stays good. A 3, so the weather stays good. I'll leave the dice tower in shot, because we do need to roll based on the British action table. I'll flash that up briefly there. Looks like this one actually isn't sensitive to the weather. So we have... Let me actually explain this a little bit more closely. So the row we pull on bases on the number of successful British convoy completion actions and or destroyed convoys. Then we roll the d6 and determine the action based on that. So right now we have no destroyed or completed convoys. So we'll be rolling based on the first row. All right. Let's see, a 5 coming back to that table is a C, so they're attempting a completion action. I don't think any of them can complete right now. Let me look at that. I think we need to have only a single task force. The trajectory may not have more than 6 segments, so they both right now have 8. So the convoy here has... Where's my laser pointer? Here we go. So the trajectory coming up from Africa actually has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 segments. The one coming from Halifax has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 segments in play. So, okay, the British pass instead after the trajectory action. So remove the selected. Okay, so we identify the... Okay, so since we can't complete due to a trajectory length, the British will actually pass here. So we'll roll a die to identify which task force will be attempting completion or will be time-lapsing. So a 5 is the CACL. Okay, so remove the, after the trajectory action. Okay, select the British convoy with a, okay, so we actually select the one with the shortest task, or the shortest trajectory. So the convoy, so it's actually this convoy that's got the least. So their speed here is actually very slow, which means they remove 2 segments. So now I need to be careful about that. Because now they will try, because now that segment is eligible to complete. So I'm wondering if instead of attacking, my original plan was I was going to attack this convoy, but now I'm wondering if I come down and try to attack this one instead. But since the British did pass, we have the initiative once again, so we have to roll for the weather. All right, it stays good on a 4. First thing I need to do is I do need to roll a rendezvous check with this rendezvous marker up here. Where is my fueling table? Ah, here we are. So I'm rolling, just to show you the fueling table. So based on good weather, I'm rolling in this table. So I'm going to roll a d6 and take the result based on that. A 5 brings me to action D. So, okay, so I remove the RV marker, the rendezvous marker. I also remove an evasive maneuvers marker from the German task force if it has one, which it doesn't. So the only actions this task force is permitted are trajectory, completion, and pass. And I can't attach an evasive maneuvers marker to this task force. Ship has developed severe mechanical problems. If there's another ship in the task force, which there is not, now serves as an escort. So the Lutzow has now experienced problems, which means now I can only get this, which means now I do remove the rendezvous marker, so that's kind of a good thing. Which means now I only have the one ship now I only have the one task force that can attack. Now I can only have the Widder attack convoys, and I'm wondering if now I might try to just have it go ahead and attack the well, the question is, am I going to be able to get to this convoy in time? Because those are both medium ships. Another idea is I try to bring the Grafspee into play now from a reorganize action. Is it a... No, it's not a... Is it a... I thought it was a reorganize action. Might not... Oh, yeah. We also attempt to bring a reinforcement group into play. So, yeah, I think I will have to try to... I'll get another task force ready for the Grafspee. I had a feeling I was going to need to bring reinforcements into play. I didn't expect to need to bring them into play this early. Now, given that this action might cause me to lose the initiative if I don't roll high enough, I think I'm going to go ahead and have the Lutzow try to get that other reinforcement marker, or that rendezvous marker. So I'll have them perform a new trajectory action. Say that 5 times fast. So I'll have them trajectory into this rendezvous marker. And then now I will take a reorganize action to try to bring the Grafspee into play. But I need to roll at least on 2d6, I need to roll at least a 7 to bring them into play. If I don't, then the initiative changes and I have to perform time lapse, which is not something I want to see right now. Before I do that, do I want to extend the trajectory on the Widder to try to attack the other convoy? I think we'll be fine. All right, so I need at least a 7 to bring the Grafspee into play. That's a 4, so we very much fail to bring the Grafspee into play, which means since we fail, we change the initiative changes. So we do perform time lapse. This time I'll have the Widder perform time lapse. I might need to do an all pass on this soon, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. So the British now have the initiative, which means they have to roll for the weather first. Remember, changes on a 6. Four, so the weather stays good. Rolling for their action. A 6 is a convoy, is another completion action. So actually now this task force, so now this convoy down here can attempt to complete. Right? Yes, select a task force attempt. Okay, so select a task force with a convoy. If more than one and there's 2, select the shortest trajectory. If no convoy in play, treat this as a convoy result instead. So now this British convoy that's trying to get into Portsmouth can attempt to complete. So they don't have an intel marker. Here's where I get an attempt to try to seize the initiative. So basically, so that convoy is attempting to complete. I have an opportunity to stop the... do I take it, or do I think I'm even going to be able to get down there to stop it? Because that's going to require me to... I can either try to seize the initiative, or I can choose to not try to seize the initiative and take an evasive maneuvers marker, which I can use I can use it to increase a modifier on a future seize initiative, automatically break away, or make a naval search for an opponent harder. What do I want to do here, though? I'm still trying to figure out if I want to take the evasive maneuvers marker or try to seize the initiative. The problem here for me is if I try to seize the initiative, that's gonna, if I decide I'm going to try to seize the initiative here, and they keep getting completion results, I'm going to have to be able to seize the initiative at least probably 2 or 3 times in a row. Yeah, I'm not going to win this scenario if I don't try to seize the initiative here, so I am going to try. And I need at least a 9 to seize the initiative. But the consolation is, on future attempts to seize the initiative, my modifier will be higher on that, so at least a 9. That's a 10, so I do manage to seize the initiative. So back to the Germans. We'll roll here. This is our weather roll, by the way. Weather stays good. Now I will go ahead and trajectory. That is a long segment to search. Yeah, I think we actually will go ahead and perform a naval search here. So I'm going to designate so I'm going to use this task force as my active task force, the one with the Witter in it. And the target force is going to be this task force. Then we complete. Okay, so search, target task force. We don't have an intel marker attached to it, so we don't have to worry about any kind of interruption. So we do... Alright, let me just double check how the naval search works. Okay, so the active task force right now has 5 segments. This convoy has 11, so the total here is going to be 16, which is going to be a very problematic roll here. Okay, so we don't have to do any kind of... So roll 2d6. We're probably going to completely whiff on this, but we've got to try. Alright, so 7, actually 7 looks like I believe that's a shadow roll, so where we get to remove the segment from the, so remove the target trajectory's space. Okay, so we remove that segment from the task force, and it does create a hole. So I get to select a line of segments to either one or the other side of that hole and remove those segments. So I get to make the selection. If that task force would have had an evasive maneuvers marker on it, the target player may spend it. So basically, the player being targeted would have gotten to remove it. So I actually will remove the segments on this side of the convoy, or on that, for that side of the convoy. So those come off the board. That actually opens up my options a little bit now, because I could still potentially double over if I wanted to do another trajectory. Actually, now I could probably come down here and start working on it, and try to work on attacking this convoy down here, because this was the one I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get to. So I will actually perform a trajectory action here. And I'll extend the trajectory down. How do I want to extend it down? I don't want to catch any intel markers, obviously, so I'm going to extend this marker. I don't need the station here. We'll go here and here. Do I want to try another naval search, or what do I want to do there? I think. Let's see, what would our trajectory total be this time? So that's a 6 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That would be 14. So we'd be rolling a little better. We'd be rolling a little better result. Yeah, we might as well try it. So we're going to do another naval search, which means that's our active force. This is the task force we're searching. So we roll 2d6. So once again, we're going to roll 2d6. And based on the modifier on the naval search, so once again, our trajectory total here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're actually rolling something good, it looks like. Okay, that's a 9, so 8 to 9, what is that result? That is a shadow. Remove all but 3 of the target's trajectory segments. The active player removes the segments, but the segment in the target space may not be removed. If the trajectory has only 3 or few signal segments to begin with, which it doesn't, so I remove all but 3. So I get to remove down to 3, but I can't remove the target segment, so I think we'll remove 1, 2, 3. And then we could probably try another naval search here with the odds considerably increased, but before I get to that, I need to take a small break. It was kind of hard to see earlier, and still kind of is, but you can see here I've got the active task force designated, the search force designated, and I think we are going to run that naval search back again. So this time we're looking at first, naval search, does that end up with a vying for the initiative? The British actually have an opportunity to seize the initiative, so hold that thought. Let me actually zoom this back out. Yeah, so the British actually will try to seize the initiative here before the Germans get to try another naval search. So hold that thought on the naval search. So the British are going to try to seize the initiative. The British fail to seize the initiative, so their next attempt to do so will be increased by 1. Then the Germans will actually do the naval search again, so this time the trajectory total here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're still, actually no, we're doing a little bit better. Alright, so that's a 9 on an 11. I think that result this time is okay. If the trajectory has only 3 or fewer segments to begin with, none are removed, and the target trajectory gains an evasive maneuvers marker. Delightful. So they get an evasive maneuvers. And then the British will try to seize the initiative. Their roll is a +1 this time. And they still need a 9 or greater on a modified roll. Three plus 1 is 4, so they don't manage to seize the initiative. Which means their initiative goes up, their initiative modifier goes up to 2. What do I want to do here? I think, honestly, I'm just going to do my first all-pass, which means both of my task actually, no, that's a dumb idea. I still want to bring the Graf Spee into play. So I'm going to try to do another... So I'm going to try a reorganize action again to try to bring it into play. Once again, I need a... What do I need? I need a... I think it was a 6 or greater to bring the... No, a 7 or greater to bring the reinforcements into play. That's a 10, so I do get to bring the Graf Spee into play. I'll put them on the white with 2 lines. So the Graf Spee is going to start off in Kiel. We need to bring the reinforcements out. Let's see, then I think they are going to... I think they're going to have to start a trajectory right away. The question is, where do I want to send them? I want to get them in on the action here. The only question is, where am I sending them? Oop. I'm trying to pick up my trajectory segments here at the moment, but... Okay, so... I'm definitely going to start them on a trajectory. I don't want to have them catch any intel markers if I can avoid it. So we'll do that. Send them out. Sending them through the English Channel would be monumentally stupid because that would give me 1, 2, 3, 4 intel markers. That's a no. That's a hard no, thank you. And once again, the Graf Spee... Actually, the Graf Spee is a medium speed as well, so they'll get to remove 3 segments on time-lapse. We'll bring that. I think I'm primarily going to have them... I think I'm going to have the Graf Spee attack this... Plan on trying to attack this trajectory coming over from Halifax, or this convoy. Let's see. Then I will... Then I think I'm... I don't think there's anything else I want to do right now, so... Question is, do I pass? Do I do a regular pass, or do I do an all-pass? I think an all-pass lets... me designate... What did we say? An all-pass lets me designate 2 task forces for... each of their trajectories. Now that I've got 3 in play, that's actually pretty tempting. So I think I will do an all-pass. So the trajectories... So the Lutzow gets to remove 3 segments, so they're going to be in another rendezvous marker. And I'll be looking to bring them home ASAP from over by the northern coast of Canada, so that trajectory turns into a station. Then the Witter will do their pass. We'll take 3 trajectories from this side. Now we're fortunate because this British convoy actually can't complete because they've only got trajectory segments there. And then the Graf Spee will pass and time-lapse here. Alright, so the British maintain their +2 modifier on their seize initiative because this is them getting the initiative from the Germans passing. So we'll go ahead and roll for the weather check. Weather stays good. Now we'll roll for their action. A 2 is an airstrike. So if the weather is good, perform an airstrike targeting a German task force in range of a British or French base. So the British are going to be targeting probably this task force segment. So they're going to launch from Scapa Flow. Actually, yeah, they're launching from Scapa Flow. What would give them actually favorable support? I gotta double check that. I think for their support, let's see, the active player may designate a coordinating force. Okay, so I don't think we have anything that can coordinate with us. The coordinating station or force is in the target hex, so no, we don't have the... Alright, so I don't think we have any... Actually, I take that back, we do. We can actually target the Witter with that, so we'll actually launch from the Bay of Biscay, since this is 1939. So we'll launch there, we'll target the task force with the Witter in it. Then they'll coordinate with the... Well, actually, can they coordinate with the convoy? I don't think they can. I apologize if this video is a little rough. I'm coming across situations I haven't before, so I'm having to check that. There's a coordination. Yeah, I guess the convoy probably could... Well, I suppose the convoy probably could coordinate with an airstrike, and they probably would have during the war. So, now that we've got that straight. Okay, so coordination is... So we calculate the trajectory total, which in this case is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I believe it counts the coordinating segment, doesn't it? Oh, the coordinating segment subtracts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minus a length of 3 for the convoy is 2. So the trajectory total here is 2, which means the British will roll 2d6. And there's an airstrike table over here. The weather is still good, so the British get to do this. That's a 7 on a trajectory total of 2. 7's a miss, so we got away with 1 there. Let's see, then after the airstrike, they had a target. Okay, then time-lapse removed segments farthest from the German task force. So, okay, wait a second. Okay, so, select the target. Then they time-lapse? Yeah, so it looks like they time-lapse after that, removing segments farthest from the German task force. So, ow, cracked my knuckles there. Okay, so that doesn't make any sense that the convoy wouldn't try to trajectory there. But okay, it looks like they only trajectory when they try to complete. So time lapse removing farthest from the German task force, but the German task force is right in the middle there. So that's a convoy, which means they remove They're very slow, so they remove 2, which means they still get the evasive maneuvers marker. So those 2 come off the board, and then this task force turns into a station, so they're going to need to try to complete pronto, I would imagine. So the Germans now have the initiative. Where's a red die? Here we are. So now the initiative is back with us as the Germans. Weather stays good, so we'll roll another d6 for the refueling check in good weather. So that's the Lutzow that's now refueling. I'll get that trajectory segment off the table. A 1 is an A. So we remove the rendezvous marker. Proceed to South America. So that task force. So the Lutzow can now only complete in South America. So not permitted to perform reorganize actions and may not perform another fueling check. Ship has been ordered to steam south and raid British shipping in the South Atlantic and possibly the Indian Ocean. So that segment can now only complete in South America, which I will immediately trajectory them in that direction. All right, so where was that? Okay, that was right here. Okay. So we'll immediately start trajectorying them. We don't get an intel marker because we're passing through a trajectory rather than a station. So we'll trajectory this task force. Down to South America. Then I'll perform do I want to perform a trajectory toward the station with the convoy? That's going to give me an intel marker, but it might be worth the risk here. Yeah. I mean, I'm already vulnerable to an airstrike, so I might as well just extend the trajectory there, which will give that task force an intel marker. Let's see. Then, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think we're actually going to pass here. So the task force I'll have time lapse is the... I'll actually have the Lutzow time lapse. Unfortunately, I can't have them attack this convoy because the only action they're permitted to do right now is from earlier. The only actions they're permitted to do are trajectory, complete, and pass. So the British will get the initiative back and they will check for the weather. Weather stays good, so we'll check for their action next. One looks to be another airstrike. So they're going to attack. So they're definitely targeting the. So they're going to launch once again from the Bay of Biscay, targeting the. Targeting the. That's the Widder, and then they're going to coordinate with the. We're going to coordinate with the convoy that's right there once again. So our trajectory total here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the trajectory total is 6 on an airstrike. Five, I gotta double check our modifiers here, because I know we had some, let's see, common modifiers. So 45. Okay, so it doesn't look like any kind of, Oh wait, so proximity. I didn't check. I forgot about that. So proximity. So it's 1 hex away, so this is a +2. So 5, 7 on a trajectory length of 6, 7. A very slow target gets hit, but the Witter is a slow target, so it just barely dodges the bullet. Then after that, we'll remove segments farthest from the German task force. So we'll take from the from this convoy. The problem for it right now is it's nowhere near a port, so that's time lapse, which means we get the initiative back as the Germans. We'll roll for the weather. Weather stays good, and let's see, that's now a search total of 11, or excuse me, a trajectory total of 11. 6 for that convoy. Actually, that would be 12 because the whatchacall is also. We'll get all of that off the board because the trajectory total for the Graf Spee and this convoy that was coming from Halifax, 6 and 6 is 12, which is not a great spot to be in here. Yeah, I think I will actually go ahead and do another naval search here. So we'll designate the Graf Spee as our active task force, and we're looking for, and we're searching this task force. So there's no intel marker there, which means interruption isn't a problem. All right, time lapse. So wait a minute, do we do time lapse after that and then seize initiative, or would it be seize initiative and then, after applying the result, each designated task force performs time lapse except the targeted, and then the inactive player is allowed to try to seize the initiative. Okay, so on a 12 for the naval search. Okay, that's a 10, so on 12, I believe that's a, let's see, that's a contact, and we remove all but 3, but we can't remove the target segment. All right, so we will remove these 3, and attach a contact marker, which I didn't think to pull them out because I didn't think I'd need them, but we do. But they were easy enough to find. So we attach a contact marker here, which means we're zeroing in on this convoy. Then we'll time lapse from the Graf Spee, which removes 3 segments. Yes, 3 segments. And then the British will try to seize the initiative. So they're +2 trying to seize the initiative. And remember, we need a 9 or greater modified to seize the initiative. Or they need a 9 or greater to seize the initiative. 7, 8, 9 is enough for the British to seize the initiative. So with that, I need to take a small break. The British will start with their weather check. Stays good. Rolling for their action next. They still have not completed any convoys. A 5, they're going to attempt to complete. So they will have to perform a trajectory to be able to do this. Actually, yeah, so to complete in Clyde, Liverpool, or Portsmouth, whichever's closer. So this task force has to convert to a trajectory and try to complete in Portsmouth. So we need one more segment for that. The Germans will... What will the Germans do? Okay, so they do have a chance to... Okay, so they are trying to complete. They don't have an intel marker attached to their task force. The intel marker here is for the... What task force is that? That's the Witter, because the convoy was a task force at that time. So the Germans will try to seize the initiative. Can the British spend the evasive maneuvers marker to make it harder for the Germans too? I don't think so. Let me look here. Let's see, evasive maneuvers. The inactive player may spend the marker to gain a modifier. So, because that's attached to the British task force, the Germans don't get the modifier, but they have to try to seize the initiative or they're going to get one of those convoys to complete. And remember, they need 9 or greater, which that's a 10, so the Germans do seize the initiative. So they'll check for the weather. It actually switches to bad, so that's going to change out what we want to do, or what we can do. That also will make the weather rolls a little bit more interesting. So now we can't... So now time-lapse actually gets even more interesting, because instead of removing a designated number per the board, we actually roll a die for the task force that we're designating to pass, and that's the one that will roll for we'll roll a die for the task force that's passing, and we'll remove that many segments instead. So let's see, what do we want to do here? I think we will... I don't particularly want to search for this task force down here because they're getting ready to complete. They're going to be trying again to complete within the next couple of turns. Do we just have the Grafspee try to search for this convoy again? That's actually not a terrible idea, so I will have them run the search back. So they're searching for this convoy. Does the contact marker may be invoked only by the active player, and only if targeting a task force station or trajectory that has a contact marker attached? Depends on the speed of the... Okay, the target task force. So I will spend the contact marker to give this naval search a plus... I get to give it a +3, or... the convoy is actually very slow, so I get to give it a +4 for my naval search. So my trajectory total right now is 6, and I'm rolling at +4. Nine plus 4 is 13. So on a trajectory total of 6. That's a skirmish, which actually lets me start a limited battle with that convoy. And if it survives the battle, that will turn into we'll move that into a station right now, since that part happens. And then we'll actually initiate a limited battle. So basically, I think a limited battle is just one round of battle. Let me look at that. Let's see, where on earth are you? Actually, skirmish. No, that's not what I want. Yeah, one round of battle only. Okay, so with that, we actually need to move to a new destination. We actually need to move over to the battle table. Okay, so we're actually over here at the battle zone. It's a little bit difficult to see, but I'll point... Okay, now there are some things that become relevant. So each ship has... Let me see if I can get this to focus. So each ship has a number of modifiers on here. So those two numbers up there are the gunnery modifiers. The left one is for close and point-blank range. That one is for far and extreme range. The number of hits here is how many it needs to flip over into a damaged state. And then if they've got a torpedo icon like that, that means they're capable of torpedoing from close range, but we only start off at far. So the Grafspee actually has a gunnery round of... actually has a gunnery value of 1 from extreme range, so they will get to apply a +1 to that. The Convoy, however, does not, so that's an NA. So the way this will work is from extreme range, we'll go for the gunnery round first. We roll 3d6 and we pick the lowest 2 from extreme range. Which means we have... okay, so 1... actually, we have to take the 2 lowest. So 1, 3, 4 is a splash result, so that's a miss on the Convoy. The Convoy doesn't get a gunnery round. So then we have the torpedo step where we're only battling in far range. Then we have the maneuver step, so the ships may move to an adjacent zone, slowest ships first, and then the breakaway step, so the ships would exit the battle. But because this was a limited battle, we're only playing 1 round of it. So with that, we need to move back over to the board. Naval search is time-lapse. Okay, so I just had to double-check something. Naval search also involves time-lapse, so the Grafspee gets to time-lapse, which means they'll turn into a station hunting this convoy. But the British have a chance to seize the initiative. Once again, they need a 9 or greater to seize the initiative. Which that's a 6, so they get a +1 on their next seize the initiative modifier. And I think now the plan is now I think we will engage the convoy in battle. So we're going to go active force is the Grafspee, and then we're engaging the convoy in battle. This is the British nightmare, basically, right now. So with that, there's no intel marker attached to it, so now we need to move back over to the gunnery section for a proper battle round. We're going to play a full battle, so this time we're going to play... so because we're battling in bad weather, we only play 2 rounds of battle. So we'll start off with our gunnery step. The convoy doesn't get to attack from extreme range, but we get to attack at a +1. So we'll go ahead and roll that. Oh, I need to roll my 3rd d6 as well. Forgot about that. So we take that away. 4 + 1 is 5, which is a splash, so we miss. We're not in close range, so we don't get to attack the torpedo. We don't get to attack the... we don't get to attack the... we don't get to use the torpedoes because we're not in close range. Close or near. Okay, so maneuver step. Question is, the convoys are probably going to be trying to exit the battle. Let me just look here. Each ship may move. Okay. Players may end the battle only, or may end the battle. So the convoy's probably... so thematically, the convoy's probably going to be trying to break away from this. They're going to stay put. The Grafspee, since it's this faster ship, will actually move up to the near zone. And then the convoy will try to break away since they're in the... since they're in the far zone, they will roll 2d6 with modifiers. So the British need to roll a 9 to break away from battle. So the modifiers here are +2 for all their ships being in the far zone, which they are. -1 for the slowest ship, which the convoy is very slow. And -1, 1 or more of your ships in the near or close zones. So if your opponent has more than one ship, the modifier remains -1. So the +2 they get from the far is canceled out. So the British need the natural 9 to break away. That's a 7, which they don't get. So we're into the last round of battle here. Which means the Germans, let's see if we can determine range. Okay, so if we're at, so near to far is still long, which means we do get to roll 2d6 in the gunnery step. So the Graf Spee is still +1. That's a 6 + 1 is 7, which is still a splash on the convoy. Okay. The torpedo zone, which we don't get because we're not in the close zone. Maneuver step, they'll try to move closer. Then the British will try to break away again. They're rolling the same modifier, Snake Eyes, but I don't think it matters here because we only play 2 rounds of battle. Yeah, we only play 2 rounds of battle. And then there's a... Then after that... Yeah, so after that we actually move back over to the board as these ships will join the respective task forces. At the conclusion of a battle, we'll actually vie for initiative, and I forgot to do this when we had the skirmish earlier. So the way this will work is each side will roll 1d6. The blue dice for the British, the red dice for the Germans. The British are +1. The British need to be higher on a modified roll than the Germans to seize the initiative. If tied, the Germans will keep the initiative. 1 + 1 is 2, but the Germans rolled a 3, so the Germans keep the initiative. Do we just run the battle back? Or do we try to find, or do we get greedy and try to find the other task force? Because we've got the one convoy here. So I wonder if we've not been doing well on the gunnery rolls. So I wonder if we, or do we just pass here and probably let this convoy go? I think we'll actually pass here. I'll designate the Lutzow to perform time-lapse. Remember, in bad weather, instead of removing just the 2 segments, actually, the Lutzow is a medium, so it would be 3. Instead of removing that many segments, I roll a d6 and remove that result. I still remove 3 segments anyway, which means South America, they can try to complete next turn, but I don't want to do that while the British have a +2 modifier to try to seize the initiative. Speaking of the initiative, the British now have it, so we'll roll for the weather. It changes on a 5 or a 6. That's a 4, so it stays bad. Then we'll roll for the British action. Okay, they still have no convoys in that have completed. A 6 is they're going to attempt completion. So they're going to attempt to have the convoy here complete. So that's the convoy that was coming up from Africa. So the Germans will actually try to seize the initiative here. They need a 9, or the British will actually have their first completed convoy. That's a 7, so this convoy has actually completed. So this one's done. Which means now their actions are rolling from one convoy. And where's the way the scenario ends? When there are 2 fewer rendezvous markers, Actually, 2 or fewer? Yeah, 2 or fewer. So I could have just had the... So actually, I could just have the Grafspade break off and try to complete, but... Or have the convoys start working their way home. So we completed, which... Okay, so that segment time lapses, which means the British now get to roll again for another action because they still have the initiative. This time, they're rolling based on 1 completed convoy. A 6 is another completion action, but the... So they're going to have to trajectory first to remove damaged British ships. Select the British task force of the convoy. If no convoy in play, treat this as a convoy British action result instead. So completion, if there's a British task force of the convoy in play, which there is, roll a die and apply the result. Okay. Alright, so a 2 gets treated as an airstrike, except this is bad weather. So treat as an X result, which means if 2 British convoys have successfully completed, they have not. Select the British task force with a BC in it, but there's none. Select an unidentified task force. And if none in play... Okay, so select the British task force with a BC in play, not a French one. If none are in play, select an unidentified task force, which will select the... Oh joy! So we'll actually grab this task force with the 2 lines in it, since... Actually, that's 2 lines, since that's the closest one. Create an unidentified task force in Scapa Flow or Gibraltar, whichever is nearest a German task force. Okay, I'm going to shut the camera off so I can read this. I'll be right back. My apologies that took me so long to get straight. So we created the unidentified task force up here in Scapa Flow, since it's closer to the German task force of the... Since it's closer to the Witter. So after it performs a trajectory... so the selected task force performs actions intended to bring to battle the nearest German task force. If no German task force can be targeted for a naval search or engage, which it can be, this task force can be targeted. So it makes a trajectory to... So trajectories to the German task force. And then targets that task force. So the active task force is this one. The target force being searched is the... We'll get these off the board for the time being. Trajectory length here is 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is 9. Okay, so we'll bring the dice tower into shot. Then a naval search. Where's the other blue die? There it is. Okay, so naval searches. Okay, so that's an 8 on a trajectory total of 9. Naval search. So I believe that's a contact marker and remove... Yeah, contact marker and remove all but 3. Where are the German contact markers? I know I have them in here. U-boats. A bunch of them went flying. Ah, here we are. All right, so contact marker there, and I get to remove all but 3, I believe, wasn't it? Yeah. So all but 3. So we'll remove 1, 2, 3. Do it like that. That task force is there. Intel is up there. Okay, then we have then after the naval search is over, it's a seize the initiative. So the Germans are trying to seize the initiative here. Once again, 9 or greater. Which that's a 9, so they do seize the initiative, which means we'll take all of that off the board. All right, then a check on the weather. That's a 3, so the weather stays bad. We're going to need a trajectory here, but we're going to have to run the gauntlet to get to... We're going to have to run the gauntlet here to get the Witter home. So I think... Yeah, I think with the rendezvous markers off the board, now I want to start working on completion. Because this is starting to go kind of sour on us. So we're going to start off with the Graf Spee performing a trajectory action. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get to that convoy, most likely. So we're actually going to have it steam toward... We're actually going to have it steam back toward Wilhelmshaven. Because that really did not work for us at all. As much as I want to try to sink the convoy, I don't think this is going very well at all. So we'll just do that with it. Then do I want to have the... run the... Yeah, I think we're going to have the Witter run the gauntlet as well. Which is going to be very bad because we're going to be picking up a whole mess of intel markers along the way. Unless I want to risk an international incident, and I'm not warm to that idea at all. And unfortunately, I am going to have to have the... I'm going to have to try to have the... have the Lutzow complete with the British having a +2 modifier to seize the initiative. So that's a big problem there. Okay, so we'll complete there. We'll pick up 3 intel markers along the way, which is very bad. So intel, because we passed through the French task force. Intel and intel. Then I will have the Lutzow try to complete, but the British get a +2 modifier to try to seize the initiative. They need a 9 or greater to pull it off. Seven plus 2 is 9, so the British do seize the initiative. That can come off the board as well. That force entered play a while ago. Go ahead and get that bagged in here. So we'll designate a task force to perform time lapse. We'll have the... that's going to get an intel marker as well, isn't it? All right, so which task force are we going to have perform time lapse? I think we'll have the... Graf Spee perform time lapse. Removing 2 segments, but since we're going to have to invoke intel limit, we'll remove this one along with an intel marker. So I suppose we got the British terrible modifier out of the way now. So the British have the initiative, so they'll check for the weather. Stays bad. So based on 1 completed convoy, a 3 is an X, so they will attempt to so So attempt a decisive action. So if 2 British convoys have successfully completed, fuel limits are now in effect. Which means based on fuel limits, when invoked by the British action table, the only actions I'm permitted are completion, trajectory, and pass. Which they have not invoked. They haven't invoked time limit yet. Then select the task force of the BC in play, not a French one. If none are in play, select an unidentified task force, which we have an unidentified task force. The selected force intends to bring the battle to the nearest German task force. So once again, they'll be targeting this task force for another naval search, which with a contact marker, the British will spend that to get a plus, I believe that's a +3 on the, right, the Witters are slow, so I think that's a +3 on naval search. Let me just double check that. Contact marker, yes, is a +3 because the Witter is slow. So this is on a naval search. Alright, so 6, 7, 8, 9 on a trajectory total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Plus, I believe. Use the act to calculate the base number. Add the active player's longest to the target's trajectory. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plus 3 is 11. We rolled a 9. So trajectory total 11, rolled a 9. We remove all but 3, but we can't remove the target hex. So they will take these out, losing the intel markers. Come on, I've got no nails to do this. Okay, so those are all gone. And then with the naval search over, the Germans will try to seize the initiative. And then which task force? Actually, I think on a completion, the active. So that task force will time lapse, and then they'll end up in the hex right here. So this is that unidentified. Oh, actually, wait. Before we do that, we do have to roll because it is bad weather. I almost forgot about that. So they'll remove all the other trajectory segments anyway, and end up in a station with that German trajectory. So now the Germans have an opportunity to seize the initiative. Now that we've got all that figured out. That's an 8, so the Germans actually have a +1 trying to seize the initiative. So what are the British doing with 1 completed convoy? A 5 is they're going to attempt completion. So let's see. If this empties a task force, remove it. Okay, so trajectory to Clyde, Liverpool, or Portsmouth, whichever is closer, but they have to trajectory there first. Looks like Liverpool is closer. Looks like Clyde and Liverpool are closer. So this task force will turn into a trajectory. Go there, there. Actually, they could go to, no. From here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They would, okay. So yeah, Clyde and Liverpool are closer for this trajectory. The Germans have a +1 to try to seize the initiative here on this convoy. Where's the lid? There you are. Alright, so the Germans actually with a 9 do manage to seize the initiative. Alright, so remove segments farthest from the target hex. Which means the British are going to time lapse. So they're going to remove 3 segments from the target hex. So they're going to remove 1, 2, 3, and then this convoy is a station waiting to come into port. And then the Germans will roll for the weather. It actually changes to good, which is kind of bad for us, because that means we won't have a chance. Well, we could try to complete with this convoy this turn. Do we try that time-lapse gauntlet again? I think we have to. So we'll just extend the trajectory here. We'll extend it back out. Yeah, I don't really want to risk an international incident here. 3, 4, and 5. Picking up 3 intel markers along the way. 1, 2, 3. Oh, this is so bad. Then we'll try to complete we'll try to have the Lutzow out here complete, but the British get an opportunity to try to seize the initiative. Fortunately, they have to roll a 9 naturally to do it. Which they don't. Their tally initiative goes up to 1. But the Lutzow has completed in South America. So they are off the board. So the Lutzow is off to South America. Let's see, then what do we want to do next here? Okay, so yeah, now we need to start working our way home. So I think I will just pass here since the scenario is basically coming to a conclusion. So I will just have do I want to have an all pass here and have them both? Yeah, I think we might as well. So we'll get rid of Grand Admiral Raider, who's probably going to have a furious Führer to deal with after this scenario is over. So, let's see, we've got a slow and a medium. So, the Witter removes 2 segments from its trajectory. The Graf Spee will get to remove 3. 1, 2, 3. So that's done there. Now the British have the initiative. Rolling for the weather. Stays good. So they've completed 1 convoy. What are they trying to do here? A 5 is attempting a completion. So they're going to attempt to complete the convoy up here at Clyde, Liverpool. The Germans will try to seize the initiative. They are able to seize the initiative. Alright, time-lapse remove segments farthest from the target hex, but there's nothing there. So the Germans have the initiative once again. We'll roll for the target. We'll roll for weather. Weather stays good. Then the Germans will actually have the Graf Spee try to complete in Wilhelmshaven. The British will try to seize the initiative at a +1. 6 plus 1 is 7, so their modifier goes up to +2, but the Graf Spee does complete in Wilhelmshaven, so they're off the board as well. So that task force is in Wilhelmshaven. That was there. And we completed in South America. Okay, so that's the last segment on the... Okay, so now we just have to get the Witter home somehow, and they are running a dreadful gauntlet here. So I think here we just pass, and that's a slow task force, so they only get to remove 2, which means we are running a horrific gauntlet here. Now the British have the initiative back, So they'll roll for they'll roll for weather first. Weather changes to bad, which is potentially a problem for us. Well, might not be too big a problem. So their action for that. A 1 is an airstrike, but it's bad weather. So, excuse me. All right, so 2 convoys have not completed yet. Select the British task force. So we do have an unidentified task force, which is the double line dark brown. All right, intending to bring the battle to the nearest German task force, which is going to be this task force right here. Actually, I'm going to take a quick drink here. Much better. All right, so that's this task force right here. They were right here. Right, so they'll task force here. Come on. There we go. Our trajectory. 3 and 4. Now that station can come off the board. Okay, so they target the... Okay, so the British are using the active task force. It helps if I get the right one out. So they're searching the task force that has the Witter in it. Active force, do they get coordination from the French task force? I don't think they do, actually. So yeah, they will actually designate the... They'll actually designate the French task force as a coordinating force. Trajectory total here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they are... Okay, the active player invokes... Okay, so... So there's an intel marker attached to the German task force, so we don't pause for interruption. The modifier in bad weather right now is +1. The coordinating task force. Let's see. All right. So we calculate. Okay. So trajectory total is based on the coordinating task force. Okay, so trajectory total has British... Okay, so I need to take a small break before we get into this naval search. Okay, so looks like our search total is 8... Our trajectory total is 8 segments. The coordinating task force from the French doesn't really do anything because it's a station. So we're rolling based on 5 to 9. There's a +1 because it's bad weather. 4 + 1 is 5. So I believe we remove the... That's remove the target hex, right? On a 5. Remove the target's trajectory segment from the space, including the intel marker. So that comes off. Doesn't create a hole, but it does make the gauntlet potentially a little bit easier for the Germans to run. Which they're probably breathing a sigh of... Which we're kind of breathing a sigh of relief on that right now. So those go there. And then with the search over... I never get this right. So the task force time lapses. That's a very slow force. So they remove 2 segments in good weather. And then the Germans will try to seize the initiative. Which right now there isn't much they're doing. Except trying to get their asses home. Boxcars lets them seize the initiative. So we'll check for bad weather, or we'll check for weather. 6, so it changes to good, which is not exactly what we want to see. That is a slow task force, so all they're doing right now is passing to get rid of that intel marker because they have to invoke intel limit. Then the British have the initiative once again. So roll for the weather first. Four, so the weather stays good. Checking for their action based on 1 completed convoy. 6 is trying another completion. So they've got the convoy up in Clyde, Liverpool. The Germans will try to seize the initiative. And 8 is, I think they were at a plus, no. Okay, so they actually don't seize the initiative, which means that convoy completes up in, I wish they had a, oh, Clyde, Liverpool. Okay, so that convoy's completed. And, okay, so the Germans actually take the initiative now. Actually, this task force will time-lapse, right? No, remove the selected. Okay, so that task force doesn't time-lapse. The Germans will roll for the weather because they have the initiative back. Weather stays good. I think they're just passing to invoking the intel limit to get rid of this trajectory segment, which will turn that into a station in Wilhelmshaven. Then the British have the initiative once again. So rolling for the weather first. Stays good. Rolling for their action now with 2 completed convoys. 1 is an airstrike, but I don't think there's, yes there is a target in range actually. So perform an airstrike targeting a German task force in range of a British base. So they're launching from this base in Britain, and they're going to target the Witter. My throat does not want to cooperate with me today. They don't have anything that would give them coordination, so they're just rolling 2d6 on a trajectory total of 0. Oh boy, that's an 11. That's not good. Right, so airstrike, trajectory total is 0. 11 is our modifier for good weather. Oh no, there's a modifier for hexes away. So I believe from an adjacent hex it's +2. That's not the book I wanted. Right, +2. Alright, so 11 plus 2 is 13 on a trajectory total of 0. Airstrike. 13 is contact marker and a hit, which is bad for us. We need to get that. A ship in the task force is damaged. Right, 13. Yes, so contact marker. And the Witter is damaged, so that's a problem. Which means on the damaged side, that kind of changes a little bit. Okay, it doesn't look like it changes too much, but it does make our... doesn't really do much to our gunnery, actually. That's weird, but... most of these ships have a damaged side on them. But it looks like we just need another hit to sink it, which is very bad. Let's see, then after that airstrike, we remove segments from the farthest from the German task force. Okay, so I think we just remove this task force and that turns into a station, we need to get this, so we need to get home now. Unfortunately, the British have a +2 modifier to seize the initiative if we try to, we have to try to complete though either way. So we're going to get all of this off the board. Roll for the weather. Weather stays good. We have to try to complete right here. So the British will try to seize the initiative, but they're at a +2. Which a 9 + 2 is 11, so that's enough for them to seize the initiative. That is very unfortunate. Rolling for weather. Weather stays good. Rolling for the action based on 2 completed convoys. A 3 is another airstrike. That's a problem. So they're launching from this airbase in Britain. Oop. So launching here, targeting the Witter, rolling on a trajectory total of 0. This is a huge problem because if we get hit again, the scenario will be over, but that will impact our victory points. 8 + 2 is 10, which just turns into a contact marker, so we get away with 1 there. Then the Germans will try to seize the initiative. They're at a +1, which they do seize the initiative. So all of this comes off the board. Rolling for the weather. Stays good. The Germans will try to complete, but the British are going to try to seize the initiative. 5 is not enough to seize the initiative, so the Witter completes at Wilhelmshaven, which, where is that port? Oh, we had 2, right. We had 2 task forces that had to complete there. So that is actually the end of the scenario, where there's only one rendezvous marker left in play, and the Germans have no task forces in play. Where did it say it could end if the... Well, we got there anyway, so the scenario is in fact over. So let's go ahead and wrap this scenario up. Alright, so we actually have a table here to help us determine the outcome. So for our mission objectives, we didn't destroy any British colonies, or British convoys, so we lose 1 victory point for that, so we're at -1 right now. We did have the Witter get damaged, so that's another -3 victory points. Yowza. We didn't deal any hits out. Each completed British convoy, we had 2 complete, so we're at yikes, we're at -8 victory points already. And we did have a German task force complete in South America, so yeah, that was a pretty ugly scenario. We got -5 victory points. So on our debriefing table, -3 or less. Failure. Gross Admiral Raider is relieved of command. Joy, joy. That kind of went completely sideways on us. So I'm going to go ahead and start cleaning up, but we'll go into the after action report here. So I really do like Atlantic Chase. I've been enjoying my learning playthroughs. There's been a lot to take in as I've learned this game, but I think for me, a lot of it's been a help of kind of coming into war games basically blind. So I don't really... A lot of people have really been saying how different this system is from anything else they've played in the wargame world, where I don't really have that feeling just because I'm essentially being so new to wargames. It kind of helps me out because I'm basically a little bit of a blank slate when it comes to the wargaming world, if that makes any sense. So I don't really have that feeling of, oh, I see how this feels so much, how this might feel so much different from the from anything else that I've ever played. Where for me, this is just a case of. For me, this is just actually. I take that back. We only had one convoy complete, so we actually got up to. So we actually take off another -2 victory points. So I think we're at -1, but no more German ships will be released for raids into the Atlantic. So as I was saying before, that kind of caught my eye. I'm very much a blank slate when it comes to wargaming, as I've been kind of learning the wargame world. So like I said, I don't have that feeling of, hey, this feels so much different from anything else I've played. This is just another new game to me. So I probably have made a lot of mistakes in this one as well. So I will welcome critiques down in the comment section down below. Because I do see myself getting this game to the channel again. Because, like I said, I really enjoy this. And I think it's a lot of the historical aspects. And you may have heard me, I don't know if if it was in my chat with ID Jester that I did a couple weeks ago, or as I've hung out with him in his streams. But I've talked before about how starting to get into these historical war games has really helped me rediscover my love of history, where I like to sit and watch documentaries and kind of learn the stories behind some of these battles that I'm fighting through in these war games. But that will do it for this playthrough of Atlantic Chase. I'm just starting to clean up here. Wednesday we're going to play Gaia Project, and next week we're going to start something special on the channel. So next month will mark the 3-year anniversary of the COVID-19 pandemic. So to commemorate the occasion, we're going to dedicate the month of Sunday videos in March to games in the pandemic system. We'll lead off Pandemic Month with another visit to the Star Wars galaxy as we play Star Wars: The Clone Wars. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.